The Theater Asylum, I really wanted to have my Fringe show there because I really liked the space. I was able to see all the other spaces, but that was the only space where I felt like there was enough room for all 10 of my actors and also still not getting rid of the intimacy I needed the audience to feel with the characters. Because when you get too far away from them, it gets a little bit harder to connect. And in this space, it's very close together, and to be able to feel what the actors are feeling a lot more closer was like kind of something I was always going for. And being a technology based show, like I want them on their phones like a lot to show them how weird it is to like be on your phones during theatrical production. And it's like to do that, to show the audience that, to show the connection between I just wanted it to be more one-on-one as opposed to them a show, if that makes sense.
So I heard about Theater Asylum. I'm pretty sure it was back in 2019 when I was looking to do the Fringe Festival back then. I think in my researching different venues that I came across them, and Matt Quinn and I were actually talking about this, and I think we actually met 2 years ago, and then I toured a couple of his spaces, and then we didn't end up doing the Fringe. Well, during the pandemic, as a member of the Orange County Theater Guild, I was on a roundtable discussion. I was one of the panelists, and Matt was watching that day. So my name was kind of brought into his mind again back in 2020. And then when I was researching for the 2021 Fringe Festival, Theater Asylum kept popping up on my Google searches for venue rentals. So I thought, this sounds familiar. Let me reach out. And then I reached out to Matt Quinn with Theater Asylum, and we were talking, and we realized in the discussion that we had met physically. He had seen me in the round table, and needless to say, just based on our connections over the last couple of years, we realized we were really a great fit for each other. What they offer at Theater Asylum is it's really an extraordinary experience. So really glad to have reconnected with them and be working with them on the Fringe.
Theater Asylum, I really wanted to work with Theater Asylum because my friend who had her show at the Stephanie Fury had such a good experience with everybody involved. The producers were on it. They were so helpful. And the space itself was just perfect. And then when I went and looked at it, I totally agreed. The space was fantastic. They had furniture they could lend for props. And then the communication was fantastic. It was like if ever I had a question, within an hour, I got an answer. They were very respectful of my time and of the art I wanted to create. And that was really edifying and great.
Matt Quinn, who, along with his wife, Bertha Rodriguez, run Theater Asylum, was sort of he's been around the LA theater scene for quite a while. And I met him in the first or second year of the Hollywood Fringe. And we hit it off, and we realized we have a lot in common in terms of our interest in theater and stuff. So we became friends. And then ultimately we became business partners because we produce a show there called Pick of the Fringe, Combined Art Forms Pick of the Fringe, which is another company that Matt and Bertha have, Combined Art Form. And so Combined Art Form and Fringe Management partner every year in doing a show called Pick of the Fringe, where we have scouts go out and try and see as much as we can, and then basically curate a showcase type show and say, here's five shows, here's 7 minutes from each one, or 6 minutes or whatever. And it's sort of a taster. So you get an idea. They've been pretty popular. I think people the notion came from Edinburgh because it's a hugely popular show in Edinburgh. There's a guy that's been doing it there for 30 years and sells out, the entire month of August, basically doing these. I think people it's a way to see, 5 different shows, admittedly only 5 minutes of each of those, but at least you get an idea. And obviously it's a teaser in hopes that you'll see that 5 minutes and then go buy a ticket to see the full show. So that's how I first met Matt. And then at some point I became aware, obviously early on, that he had Theater Asylum and he booked theaters as part of the Hollywood Fringe. So I've worked with them, I think on like 5 shows before, maybe more. from the early days when he still owned that theater on Lillian Way, which is now the Broadwater. Matt didn't own it. I shouldn't say he owned it, but he was the booking manager for it. And I think my first time working with Theater Asylum was a show called Nigerian Spam Scam Scam, which is a comedy about a true story about a guy who decided to engage one of those Nigerian emailers in an actual conversation that went on for like 2 years. In any event, that was at the studio, I think, at what used to be called the Lillian Way or whatever it was, the Elephant Theater. And then, it was a good experience. Matt's a pro when it comes to the Fringe, and we were going to use Theater Asylum last year when we did the show, and he was able to offer us a nice venue in the Stephanie Fury studio. And so we just stayed with what we knew and had good experience with.
With Theater Asylum, I worked with them in 2018 because I needed rehearsal space. Thymele Arts is like a multi-purpose building where they have, is used for other things besides theater, but, they do have, the rooms are used for theater. But the manager there, Matthew Quinn, I met in passing in 2018, so he already knew who I was. So it was just natural for me to work with Matthew again because he knew who I was. He knew of my my talents because he used me in various Zoom panels, being like an expert in various topics. So it was just a synergy that I felt just made sense for me to work with the Thymele Arts because of the history that I had with him, Matthew, as well as the Thymele Arts community.
I heard of Theater Asylum when, it was late in 2018 at a party. I met someone who loves directing, anything, everything theater, but directing foremost among them. And then Steve and I kept in touch about doing projects together. He directed that virtual reading of Mother Grace last year, and now he's directing this production. And as far as how I heard about Theater Asylum, the idea was, asked for his thoughts on where we should perform. And then I know, the Hollywood Fringe Festival application actually allows you to select different theaters in which you're interested. And theaters, if they are so inclined, will get back to you, and you'll go from there. Looking through the list of potential Fringe locations with Stephen, he's more experienced. As much theater as I've done, he is definitely more experienced than I am. So he stated which theaters he thought might be a good idea because he'd previously performed there or whatever. And then out of the theaters I wrote to, Theater Asylum was one of the ones that wrote back. So Stephen arranged tours of that and of another place. Another place wasn't as nice for a few reasons, but Theater Asylum had 2 locations. So then finally, I like the Stephanie Fury Theater really seemed perfect for our production. So yes, Stephanie Fury Studio Theater, everyone, come check it out.
I decided to join Asylum after the premise. I come from Rome, so I come from a place where the beauty surrounds you all the time. So in Rome, when you choose something according to the way you feel about it, or the beauty of it. Here in LA, I made a different choice. I choose people. I choose who I want to deal with. This is my second part of my life, and I want to be surrounded by amazing people that help me to become a better person. Matthew Quinn is one of those. Is a very kind person that makes you feel welcomed, protected, helped, supported, and that there's nothing that I say more, oh my God, I'm terrified. And there's nothing that says more that, no worries, I will help you. No worries, everything is under control. And Matthew has been very supportive in these last 2 years, more or less, and helped me to settle everything and to feel okay with this big time event for me. And that's why I chose Asylum. I choose people, I don't choose places.
When I was working with Deborah DeLiso in my solo performance class, and she was encouraging me to participate in Fringe, I didn't really know where to start. And she said, the best person to reach out to would be Matthew Quinn, who runs Theater Asylum. She's had really good experiences with them. And I think knew that Matthew and Berta, who run Asylum, do a really tremendous job, not only of, getting shows up and running that are really exciting and interesting, but helping people who are putting those shows on to feel like they're a part of a community and ultimately to really support one another by seeing each other's shows and being there for one another. And so, one of the things that Theater Asylum does is hold a lot of kind of information sessions, meet and greets. And of course, pre-COVID, these things were happening in person, which maybe, facilitated some of the getting to know people a little more rapidly than some of what we've had to do on Zoom. But just my, initial experiences sort of going into the information sessions, getting to meet people were immediately affirming of like, oh, okay, this is a place, I could belong. These are people who I could be friends with, who I could support, who, could support me. And after, just a few interactions with the folks at Asylum, it didn't take long for me to feel like, okay, this is definitely something I want to do. And, I also ended up developing a really close relationship with Pam Knowles, who's one of the folks who does stage management or has done a lot of stage management with Asylum. And, as, Matthew will often say, like the people that you meet at Fringe, you not only, might become your friends, but you might end up working with them on, future Fringe festivals. And so Pam is a kind of featured part of our contributor, collaborator for my new show now, is also doing my stage managing, but is also, in addition to that, performing as a very critical, character in the performance.
I heard about Theater Asylum when I was working the venue. The Matt Quinn is so awesome, and we had a couple meetings, and the space I was looking at several spaces. It was really important for me being an ADA compliant space. And even though I'm doing my show will be live streaming from the Lindbergh Theater, which is in the Los Angeles LGBT Center. However, Matt was so great, and Matt, that's what we do this, PR program, and it's been so great to be a part of it, and I've gotten so many opportunities, and I've learned so much about the business side of doing this, because there are two sides. There's the performer side, and then there's the producer side, and I've had to wear two hats the entire time, and each hat are equally important, but require a very different part of your brain space to work. And I think what's been great about that is I've learned a lot about producing by being part of that, and delegating it, and all the things that usually as an actor I just think about the acting, and that's all I have to do. As a producer, I have to think about so many more things.
Oh my God, how do you not hear about Theater Asylum? Well, just I don't know how you would be involved in Fringe and not know about the gathering of the Mats. Shout out to Matt Camamera. It's just the Mats, and I'm a drug addict. So when I volunteered in the year, I'm looking who's who and whose name is on everybody's lips, and Matt Quinn and his wife, they're just they're the vanguard. You know, there's some people that have just been around forever. You know, and I'd go to these events like, you know, the town halls and this, and you would see them at all the events. They're always got their hand up. They're on the radar. And if you're coming in and you really want to be a serious guy in the Fringe, you look for the people who are, you know, on the radar, who are the vanguard. And so that's it. Hooking up with Matt, you know, I took a couple classes with him, and you know, I told him, hey, I'd like to volunteer, and he was great. He had me all over the. Steen is great too, but Matt had me here, there. You know, oh, I get to be a house manager. So I love Matt.